Hey everyone, Lisa Drennan here, energetic mindset mentor with today's interview. For Giving the Girl Inside a Matter of the Heart, we have the beautiful Holly Lasky, and we just spent some pre-live talk, great conversation. But Holly is an amazing, beautiful person. She has these beautiful gifts and talents that you may or may not hear in this episode, but she has an incredible healing journey. And if you've tuned into the podcast or watched this on YouTube before, you know that we're all on a healing journey. It's a daily healing journey. So today we're going to hear Holly's story. Holly is a master coach. She is the co-founder of Aligned Optimum Vitality Coaching. And hopefully I said that right. You guys know I'm kind of, like got that little stuttering thing going. But it's a beautiful coaching program that she does with her partner, where they just help entrepreneurs, business owners really get to the root cause, dig deep down into what is the trauma that holds you back? What is keeping you from being successful? And we've titled this episode, How to Lose 100 Plus Pounds, How Losing 100 Plus Pounds Felt Like the Biggest Failure in the World. And if that resonates with you, one, you need to share this episode with whoever, because it resonates with you and it may resonate with somebody else. But you ever hold on to something, this unhealthy coping mechanism where you're just constantly trying to lose something and you just keep getting it back? But then when you release it, when you let go and you can truly forgive yourself, you can truly get to the matter of the heart, that's when mountains move. So Holly, welcome. We're so excited to hear your journey and how you got to be where you be. So tell us a little bit about your background story before you started coaching, before you had this revelation where you really knew that moment where you're like, that's it, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so excited to be on and to share with everyone really my journey of transformation. And it's funny now. I look back. In fact, we were talking about it before we got on. I think sometimes you look back in your life and say, "Gosh, if I'd known then what I know now, this would have been so different." But every step along the way has not been wasted. I grew up in the church. I grew up with this uh, idyllic kind of life and family, and growing up, the mom, the dad, the dog, the brother. I went to great schools. I was part of a great community, and everything on the outside looked good. And as I was growing up, there were things going on underneath that were not. And I didn't know how to talk about them. I didn't know how to deal with them. It's that compound effect of those little things every day that the places that I needed resolution and healing inside of me began to compound outside of me. So I was sexually molested as a kid. So I had trauma. I went through a lot of loss. A lot of my life was kind of in spite of and not because of. And I was just trying to do the best I could. And I think that's where a lot of people are. You're doing the best you can at the time with what you know. I have a very deep faith in God, and my relationship with God is very important to me. So I always knew that God had a plan for my life. I just really didn't quite know how it was all going to work out. And then right when my life was beginning to get more positive in a lot of ways, I used to worry, what am I going to do if something bad happens? And the funny thing is, something bad had already happened. And I went into a season where my life turned upside down. And all of the things that had happened before, all my coping mechanisms, all my ways of dealing with my world, even amplified more. And so fast forward to about 5 years ago, I reached a point of really needing to make a different decision about where I was in my life. So
That is I was like stuck on that. You were taking someone else's beliefs as your own. Tell us some more about that. Like, were you being fed lies and you were like, okay, this is truth, and you just accepted it at face value? Or was it more like the gaslighting type where you were like, no, this is what really happened, and even though it didn't happen?
I think for me, it was because of my earlier traumas. There was, besides the sexual trauma, there were medical things that I had dealt with as a kid. And I really deep down felt that I didn't, it was, and I am so free from this now. So it's in some ways it's kind of funny to say it because it's very neutral now. Um, Saying that, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, that I'm a failure, that the things
Mm.
that were bad that happened to me were my fault. I was coping with my life and compartmentalizing and suppressing my emotions. And I didn't understand till later that I'm very empathic. So to be able to shift and not experience emotion as pain, but to be able to experience emotion as information. And that was a really big change for me. I was uh, I was really just dealing with a lot of things in my life. My husband had a catastrophic illness 20 years ago. My dad was terminally ill at the same time. We were trying to get pregnant. We had difficulty with that. We finally did have a daughter. Um, Lots of loss. I had multiple miscarriages. We lost so many people close to us. And I found at one point that, me, the person that was suppressing and compartmentalizing emotions and using food to cope in some rather extraordinary ways, I cried every day for 3 years, trying to work through my own grief. And just when kind of I felt like I had a little more equilibrium in my life, we went through another period of medical crisis. But the thing that was different was that I had made a different decision, because before I had been in this place of I still remember that moment I was in. I had kind of almost completely given up. I was sitting in my living room. I was in so much pain. I was dealing with chronic pain, chronic depression. I was on a cane because I had knee injuries. I was really struggling, just trying to do the things I wanted to do in my life and not feeling like I was showing up at all the way I wanted to, for myself, for my family, for my daughter. Um, and and I thought, okay, this isn't going to get better. I just have to do the best I can, and the pain is always going to be there. And I decided that the pain was going to always be there. And I remember just kind of like flipping that switch and getting up and doing all the things I needed to do. I just kind of pushed that down a little further. And it wasn't till, and I had done everything. Oh, I had done counseling and theophostics, and I had talked to my pastor, and I had really prayed and seen, it's seen how God had really moved in my life in all of the challenges that we had had. And yet I thought maybe that wasn't for me, that I couldn't heal. And of course that wasn't true. And it was really a combination of the right people at the right time, when I had decided that it was not just life and death. Life and death is a really powerful motivator. Um, but I wanted to do more than just not die. I wanted to live, and I wanted to have an amazing life, and really create something extraordinary with my life. And that was really the turning point for me.
Yeah, and all that, those past traumas dealing with the miscarriages and the losses of the loved ones. And I mean, I imagine there was somewhat PTSD
Yeah,
associated with that, because a lot of times what happens, especially when it comes at you so quickly, we end up burying it in our emotions. You deal with one trauma and you put a band-aid over it, and then it kind of gets buried, and then something else happens, and everything just gets a band-aid, and you never really get to the root cause. And that's
right.
one thing, like, um, I rebranded in the end of May of 21. And the SOAR program, Seeking Our Authentic Routes to Our Highest Potential, is really about digging to the matter, connecting our mind and our heart. And when you talk about, believing someone else's beliefs, I think that happens to a lot of us, especially when you're in the entrepreneurial world, is there's so many opinions coming at you. It's like, what do you truly believe? What do you really believe to be true about yourself, about the circumstance? A lot of times you can't change those circumstances, but you can certainly change how you respond to them. And it's all connecting that mind and heart and captivating those thoughts and saying, well, wait a minute, is what you're saying true? How am I receiving this? How does this apply to my life? How can I respond differently so that the outcome might not be so tragic? But I find, and I don't know if you have this same experience with your clients, is that we're so afraid to acknowledge this trauma, this hurt, and process it because of what people might say. And we turn to these unhealthy coping mechanisms of overeating. And a lot of times it'll show up, anything that you bury emotionally will show up physically. So you had mentioned that you had used a cane and you were working with depression and chronic pain and struggling with these different injuries. In hindsight, did you look back and say a lot of it came from not processing the emotional trauma that you were going through?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, it wasn't even processing, it was just trying to suppress it and not deal with it. And the coping mechanism of food, even shopping, how I was dealing with money. I was really not honest with myself. And so when I began from that place of I want to do more than just not die in my life, um, I had, like I say, the right people cross my path at the right time. So the first person was an amazing chiropractor, Dr. Adam Fields, and I met him. We go to the same church, and I met him on Easter Sunday, and he was playing Jesus. And so it was so funny to see him on stage as Jesus. I'm going, okay, what is he really like? And then my husband and I started to see him and afterwards. And so we kind of joked and said, oh, we should have just gone to see Jesus in the first place. And Adam was amazing because he really helped me really begin to look at things differently. It was kind of the beginning of a conversation, really. And the fact that I went into it with very, very low expectations. It wasn't, I want to heal and transform my life. It was, I want just a little less pain, a little more functionality. I did not have big goals at that point. And he was the first person I really borrowed his belief because I really didn't believe things could dramatically change. And all of a sudden they were. And I thought, wait a minute, I dropped like 25 pounds and in an easily and effortlessly. And I thought, "Well, how did that happen?" And so things began to transform and very, very quickly. Like you say, it's the things underneath. People come to me for health all of the time, and they, may have significant health issues and weight and other things. And it didn't start there. It started somewhere when they were, 5 years old, and they decided that they weren't worthy, or they decided that they weren't loved. And we live our lives according to these lies that are not true. And certainly I did that too. And then it was interesting because right at the point I was attending a spiritual formation class, and it was just reminding me of my relationship with God and that priority in my life. And again, at perfect timing. And then that's when I discovered coaching. And so I came to coaching as a client because I saw the possibility of resolving my trauma, that I didn't have to live my life through that lens, that I could actually have resolution, that I didn't have to be held emotionally hostage by it. I could in fact, now we kind of joke in coaching about we clean people's filters. I can change the filters. I can change how I'm taking in the information around me, and create a different internal representation of my world. I can create a different picture within myself of how I see the world, because I'm not looking at it through my loss and through my my grief and through the trauma and the PTSD and the depression and all of that. Did all those things happen? Yes, absolutely, they did. But my perspective has changed so much on it, and to be able to break the negative neural connections to those things and create positive connections, and to actually say, what purpose did this serve in my life? How am I grateful for this? I mean, that's a weird place to arrive to. It's like, how can I be grateful for being sexually molested? How can I be grateful for the loss of my dad? How can I be grateful for the miscarriages I experienced? How can I be grateful for the disconnection I experienced with my community over and over and over? And it was really once I began to go inside and resolve at the very, very deep core level where all those things started, that's when everything moved around me, shifted around me, doors opened that to, you know, I look at where my life is now, and I'm in a completely different place, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it was all because you said yes.
Yes.
It was all because you
Well,
said yes
yeah,
to healing.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when we come to that
Yeah.
realization that we can't do it alone. My healing journey, like, in 2013 started with gratitude, and in
Mhm,
2014 I connected with a mentor coach. And, for the first time in my life, someone asked me, "Well, what do you want? What do you truly want?" And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" No one had ever asked me that. And when I thought about it, and I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And just take all the material,
mhm,
take all the money, take all the things out. Just if you could have something in your inner self change, where you can look at your inner child and just have something change, what do you need? And I'm like, I just want peace. I don't want to be in this constant turmoil, this
mhm.
anger, and this unhealthy, people pleasing, and hiding behind my happy face. Because, if you knew the real me, you wouldn't want to know me. You would, you'd be like, get away. And
Yeah,
that was a realization. So the importance of having that coach, having that mentor, we as coaches can see things that our clients can't see. We think that we can
absolutely.
do it on our own. We think that, oh yeah, I got this. I'll read this book. I'll do that. All you're doing is prolonging the healing, because you're going to heal so much faster when you're working with somebody, because they're going to be able to spot it so much quicker than you are. And in any realm, whether
Yeah.
you're trying to release weight, or you're healing from some type of, physical, emotional trauma, if you're even for finances,
Mhm.
mindset's the crux of all that we do. And I always say, if thoughts were a person and came knocking on your door, would you let them in? Our
Yes.
thoughts are so important, and how we receive information, and really truly knowing what you believe, and knowing that it's from your heart and not from what someone's told you. You went out and got the facts, and not just believing it because somebody, brainwashed you or coaxed you or repeated it so many times, it must be true.
Well,
So
you're absolutely right. It's definitely, we need that outside perspective of the things that we can't see. And one of my mentors said it's like the jar of peanut butter and the jar of jam, and the peanut butter is saying to the jam, it's like, no, I'm jam, and the jam's going, no, you're peanut butter, and peanut butter is saying, no, 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 I am raspberry jam, and the jam's saying, no, you are peanut butter. And we need that outside perspective to see the label, to see the things that we can't see. And I coaching is so incredibly powerful. Every coach needs a coach, and I'm so fortunate
mhm.
because I have several. And it's that idea of going not just from functioning in your life, but more towards optimum. I was working with one client. It was kind of an amazing thing. I was coaching her in business, and at the end of that period of time that I was working with her, she was symptom free of fibromyalgia, which was, yeah, which was stunning because everything is connected. Everything affects everything else. And it is definitely, it's, I mean, I read all the books too. I read every book on nutrition. I read every self-development book. I listened to, great teachers and trainers and everything else. But it wasn't until I started to take responsibility, I started being honest with myself. And I realized also, I still remember there was one pivotal conversation with a couple of my mentors where I realized that I had felt really alone in what I was dealing with, even though I had support around me. I, in my family and my marriage and everything, but I felt so isolated by what I was feeling and what I was thinking and how I was experiencing my life. And then to realize that I didn't have to be alone in that journey. And so it's been exciting to kind of see one thing lead to another, and people knew me in one context and now getting to know me in another. I loved what I did before coaching, but I also recognize that some of my motivations that took me there really came out of uh, some of the challenges that I've dealt with. And now it's funny to have released the trauma and the PTSD. And I'm not anymore. I was a food addict. I'm not that at all, because of the work that I've been able to do and continue to do. Because I think it's the thing that I found in coaching is you take someone from 0 to 10 and you create a new 0, and then you grow to a new 10. And so to be on that upper trajectory of personal growth that affects every area of life is incredibly powerful. I mean, I started out writing a book and doing public speaking, and I thought that's nice. But, and we were talking about this before we got on to record today, and I thought, I want to do more than that, to be able to walk with people where they are in their journey of healing, to be able to support people in that place, so that they can know what I came to know, which was we were not designed to do life alone. We were designed to do life in community. So
Mhm.
I'm loving what I'm doing as a coach, and it's such a incredible honor and privilege to work with people and to create that safe space so that people can bring their most vulnerable judgments about themselves and we can actually release them. So
Yeah, it's a
it's been
beautiful,
incredible.
yeah, it's a beautiful
Yeah.
journey, and to be able to walk beside somebody and help them it's wonderful. And right, we are made for community. If you could give one piece of advice to our audience, somebody who's struggling with similar traumas and different situations, what that you experienced, what would that one piece of advice be?
Oh, I would say consider the possibility that it doesn't have to continue the way it is, that change is possible. um, Change, it starts with those, sometimes those little incremental decisions we make every day that compound to something bigger. But beyond that, I'd say, besides considering the possibility that your life can look differently, because mine looks, I don't even recognize what my life looks, the difference between 5 years ago and now, 2 years ago and now, a year ago and now, amazing, incredible, and bigger and better and more mind-boggling. And I've been able to create something very different and new and incredible, and more doors are opening. And sometimes we get stuck in thinking that it won't change. So I would say that piece of advice would be, consider the possibility. And if you're still not sure, borrow somebody else's belief, and borrow mine, because it is possible. It is absolutely possible. I've seen it and I'm living it. And and yes, it is a journey, but it's really been exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. Really appreciate it. We'll have your links in the description. And if you
Super.
are tuning in live on Facebook. Look for those links afterwards. If you have any questions, or you can comment what resonated the most with you, be sure to do that. And you can connect with Holly, send her a friend request, click on one of her links, and get in touch with her to see if it's a good fit for you. And if you'd like to know more about my program, just send me a direct message. Stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast. This will be uploaded very soon. So go to Forgiving the Girl Inside, A Matter of the Heart, to catch this episode again, to share it with your friends, family, whoever this can resonate with that has experienced the same type of trauma and who is really looking to be on their healing journey, to start living life differently, to know their why. Because remember, it's all a matter of the heart.
Thank you so much, Lisa.